Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Today we're going to be talking about retaliations coming to America. The topic is Iran retaliation inside the United States to dams, electrical generation stations, and poisoning our water. Now, before I get started, I'm going to encourage you to do something. I'm going to encourage you to go to watchprophecyclub.com. And I've got 8 videos up there that I really want you to watch. It doesn't cost anything to watch them. But they say some things on these videos back when we used to be unfiltered, when we were just on Christian stations, we could say what we wanted to say. But now upon the global platforms, I'm sure that there are some things said that I have to even be careful in just telling you what's on the video. But you do want to go watch these. Trust me, you do want to go watch these videos. Okay, so the first one is called Chrislam, the Nation Killer, by my wife, Leslie Johnson. She compares Christianity and Islam, showing that Allah is not Jehovah God, as many of the Islam people teach. Chrislam says Allah, the Islamic God, and Jehovah are the same God, and puts Qurans and Bibles in the same pews. I can tell you, about 2 weeks ago, I talked to a racquetball buddy, an Islam buddy. I was talking to him about the Bible, and he said, well, it's the same God. No, it's not. But you need to understand that. 5 Deceptions of Islam by Avi Lipkin. He examines the foundational claims of Islam through the lens of biblical Christianity, comparing the teachings of the Quran and the Bible on God, Jesus Christ, peace, love, divine revelation. Jesus, Jews, and Jihad by Marvin Yakos. A former jihadist himself spent 15 years studying Vedic scriptures, 20 years studying Islam, the Quran, and the Hadith. After his miraculous salvation, God showed him in a vision that Islam would invade the world with one final jihad, that's Armageddon. He says the goal of Islam is to kill or enslave the world. Islam kills or enslaves captured men, makes women sex slaves. You will learn the frightening truth about Islam, the number one enemy of Christianity, as I have said a long time. These are the DVDs that you want to go watch. We used to put these guys on a 10, 15, and at one time even 40 city speaking tour. So these are professional DVDs made in a TV studio. One of them also is Atomic Iran, which is real hot right now. So who talks? Jerome Corsi, very famous guy, Harvard graduate, 15 books, spoken for Israeli Knesset. He used to have a top secret clearance, and he says that Iran will use atomic weapons. It has proclaimed that a mullah will return and destroy the infidels, Christians, anybody that's not a Muslim, and usher in an Islamic global government that, of course, leads to Armageddon. Then I made one called Islam and Prophecy. I examined the relationship between Islam and Bible prophecy, exploring prophetic interpretations, end-time scenarios, and questions about the future role of Islam in world events from a biblical perspective. Bill Federer came in, talked on Islamic conquest, past or present. He explores the historical rise and expansion of Islam, examining key military campaigns, the Crusades, influential historical figures, and the lasting impact on Islamic civilization on world history. Islamic Jesus versus Biblical Jesus, James Sundquist, uses 22 scriptures to show that Islamic and Biblical Jesus are not the same. Israel-Islam Biochemical Warfare by the famous Bill Schneblin gives you what prophecy says is going to come in Iran. He explains how the Muslim religion creates terrorists and who would kill thousands of Americans, and exposes who Allah really is. So there it is. There's the list, and it's free to watch through the end of August 2026. So you want to go there. Now, when you go to watchprophecyclub.com, this is what it's going to look like. All you do is click sign in, and you can watch it free. You got 3 days free, even if you're looking at other stuff. But we've made this group free through the end of August. Go check it out. WatchProphecyClub.com. All right, now, things that can bring retaliation attacks inside America's borders. And that's what we're really talking about today. Now, I covered this yesterday, so I'll cover it quickly. But to refresh your memory, Do you recall prophecies about explosions in cities all over America? Electrical grid down. Containers where Asians came out on motorcycles going out to shoot and destroy. Poison in our drinking water. Boiling won't fix it. It is a poison you have to filter out. New news. Iran's IRGC warns strategic surprises in store will shift to defense in an offensive form. As I covered yesterday, Islam doesn't want peace. The Islamic Iran doesn't want peace. Muslims don't want peace. But specifically, Iran says it doesn't want peace. It wants to go to war. And they're saying now it's going to be more offensive. The armed forces would adopt a transformative approach, including a potential shift toward more offensive weapons. I believe that they're talking about hitting America inside America. Don't forget, we got some 20 million people that crossed the borders during the Biden administration that weren't vetted. You know that some of them were Islamists. From now on, every action we take, Iran says, although it has a defensive nature, it must take on an offensive form. Reorganize, modernize, and make more effective decisions. Perhaps they should expect strategic surprises. In other words, Iran's about to start attacking us, and I don't think it's just in the Middle East. I think we're going to see electrical grids go down, poisoned water, dams blown up, bridges blown up, big problems. Now, let me go to Brandon Biggs. He calls this dark days to come, and he just got this recently. He didn't give a date. He said, I saw a railroad car that was black that had a pulse inside of it that would look like the movie Ocean's 11. In other words, some kind of an EMP pulse machine. And he said it would be a pulse device. When the pulse went off, it disrupted the power grid. It was in Atlanta. I could see this plot. They have a plan. I saw 10 cities. Do you remember Kurt Weldon saying he saw a plot where they were going to set off suitcase nukes in 10 cities? I think it's interesting that he says 10 cities. Same thing. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. See, a lot of people probably thought that, all those prophecies we're talking about back in 2020, 21, 22, those didn't come back. Well, wait a minute. Apparently they are still on the board. They are still coming. I saw 10 cities with 100 men in each city. They were divided by 2s and 3s. They were reconnaissance missions to gather intel to find what was vulnerable in America. I saw water plants, electric plants. I saw the Hoover Dam hit. They hit mass transit in subways, buses, places of large gatherings, sports stadiums, and a lot of travel, gatherings in megachurches, mega schools, coliseums. It wasn't just a mass pow like Timothy McVeigh. Now, I did a little research on the Hoover Dam. This is a picture of it. But I asked AI, what would happen if that were to burst? Oh, catastrophic. The initial wave would be catastrophic. Wall of water rushed down through the narrow Black Canyon, skipping. Water to roughly 25 million people would be cut off. Powers to 1 million people would be cut off. Major farming operations. Not only would many people die, many people starve, and a lot of people run out of water. Big, big problem. One dam. But there's a lot of dams in America. I should have looked up how many dams, but I'm going to guess it's over 200, 250? I don't know. Their goal is to cripple America's infrastructure. Now we're back to Brandon Biggs' prophecy, his vision he saw. And I saw nuclear facilities targeted. The Hoover Dam with a massive dump truck that had Timothy McVeigh-style fertilizer bomb to flood Nevada. It would not only flood, but generates electricity. Another was scoping out bridges. Okay, so try to imagine if they started taking out bridges where you could get to work, could get home, okay? One in particular that goes from New York to New Jersey area going into Manhattan. I saw a major bridge split in the middle. Cars were going off to the side of this bridge and in the water. I saw them listed from least to greatest targets. They deemed it necessary to eliminate America like we have done to them. Their main generals, their people of importance were saying eye to eye, we want to inflict the same kind of retaliation against America as they have done to us. Now, That makes sense. That sounds like them, doesn't it? I saw a white piece of paper with a list of targets. Each one was listed in the order of importance. They began with Trump's family, his cabinet, strategic things. They had people stationed that were not terrorists, in other words, lookouts. But then they also had people like Navy SEALs, highly trained. They came through Canada, some through the southern border. Our power grid, they say, is vulnerable. Huh. Very easy. I saw the power grid taken out. I saw banks not opening. All right, now hang on. Let's talk about that a second. So, if the power grid were taken out across the nation, you know what would happen? They say within 2 weeks, people would be starving to death. They say within the first year that roughly, I think it was a fifth of America would starve to death. Now think about that. How many people would die because it was too hot? Die because of the cold? How many people would starve to death? They lose their job, they lose their car, they lose their house, okay? I saw Chase Bank completely dark, nobody in there. I saw them trying to build an electrical substation back. Now, hang on. Talked about this yesterday too. Some of the transformers that are needed for our electrical grid take years to make, and they're not even made in America. They're made abroad. So we're probably talking about if some places were knocked out, with say a drone, okay, we talked about yesterday, that they're suspecting that Iranian drones have been brought into Mexico. They're going to bring them up to the Mexican border and then launch them into America to hit our oil refineries. Okay, so they hit a few oil. I mean, it only takes one and they hit in the right place. Oil refinery down, electrical grid down, send some very, very big poisonous something into the water. I mean, we are very vulnerable. We're not invincible. We're not untouchable. We are touchable. I saw the power grid taken out, banks not opening, nobody in the bank, trying to build electrical substation back. They went after our stock market, our economy, hoping to cripple our down. You remember that it was, You Be Ready, he saw 8 flashes. He described them as suitcase nukes, just like in a circle right around Wall Street. And they went off the same time. Do you suppose all of these suitcase nukes we've been talking about might be either by Iran or blamed on Iran, or maybe Iranian IRGC people placing them and setting them off? Do you remember the drones here a couple of years ago? They couldn't explain to flying all. Who are these drones? Where are these coming from? What are they doing? We couldn't shoot them down. We didn't know anything about them. My understanding is from yesterday's program, I read you an article, we can't shoot them down. So, I mean, here we are, the most advanced nation. We can't even take out an airplane, a toy airplane going through the air. I mean, yeah, you can shoot it down, but the problem is detecting them, stopping them, not so easy. So they went after our stock market, our economy, hoping to cripple our Dow Jones, to create havoc and chaos in our nation concerning finances. What have we done to Iran? We've taken their finances away. We've taken their navy, their army, just about everything. They would all come out like Rambo with AK-47s and go in places. He said their job is to disrupt and destroy as much as they can, especially our economy. He said the Secret Service announced that it had dismantled a massive telecommunications threat to the city. According to the agency agents, uncovered a cache of electronic devices, including SIM cards and servers, in multiple locations within a 35-mile radius of the United Nations. The Secret Service said that the network had the capability of anonymously transmitting assassination threats. It could also be used to, here it is, cripple our cell phone service, cripple our 911 emergency call service. What about shutting down hospitals? Okay, police services. I saw our subway system attacked, hitting major infrastructure things that would cause chaos. I saw things in Chicago, Seattle, and other cities across America. God said, Brandon, this is a multi-tens of millions dollars operation that has been going on for a while. It's been funded by Iran and by terrorist organizations. Biden letting some 20 million people in, some of those were Islamists, terrorists. They're maybe not even from Iran, but as I said yesterday, the Democrats vote together as a bloc. Now, the Republicans, they're like cats. Nobody owns a cat, okay? And you can't tell the Republicans to all vote together. But Satan's bunch, they stick together, especially those that worship Allah. So even though Quran, Saudi Arabia, U.A.E., some of those other Islamic nations around Iran might not like Iran and might not like Iran attacking them, they still worship the same God. Probably, this is a guess, but probably push comes to shove, they all work together. See what I'm saying? President Trump says the war is almost over, but he says, I truly believe the war is not over yet. It's about to flip and become a retaliation attack within our own nation. Okay, hang on. Remember all those prophecies? I got some here if I have time to get to them. We got a lot of prophecies saying all kinds of bad things happen in America. We couldn't ever, how's that going to happen? Well, now we can see how it could very well happen. It's about to flip and become retaliation attack within our own nation. Everything is by design. Perfect. They weren't in a hurry. Retaliation. It's not going to be a slap, God says. But Iran plans to hit us back. You hit me, I hit you. I hit you back. No, the Lord said it's not a punch for a punch. They want to deliver a fatal blow to keep America out of what they want to do to Israel. I've heard it said that in Islam, they want to kill the Saturday worshipers first, then kill the Sunday worshipers, because Islam wants to kill everybody on the planet that's not Islamic. That's what Islam means. It means totally committed. America is the big brother to Israel and is in the way. When I got completely quiet, he says, Jesus was standing there. He was wearing a white robe with purple over it. He said, Brandon, the people turned their nose up at me. Have we not? I mean, when we can't even figure out in the Women's Basketball Association who a woman is, okay, we can't tell the men that they're not going to go into the women's locker rooms. I mean, we've fallen. He said, Brandon, the people have turned their nose up at me. I told you in the days ahead a great Ichabod has come to our land. Now, what's Ichabod? Ichabod is the Spirit of God has departed. It's a Hebrew word. That's what it means. The Spirit of God has departed. Ichabod has come to our land. But the Lord said, no, you will not be a goat nation. You will remain a sheep nation. He said, I'm going to shake America, for they are spoiled brats. Oh, aren't we? Go to another nation and you'll see just how spoiled we are. Matter of fact, Leslie and I were talking last night. What they ought to do with some of these communists, they ought to say, okay, well, if you want to be a communist, you got to go spend a year in a communist country. Send them down to Cuba. Send them to Russia. Send them to any real communist nation. They got to live there for a year. They'd come back and kiss the ground in America. They wouldn't want to be a communist. He said, I'm going to shake America for their spoiled brats. The way they have displayed themselves with their haughtiness and their nose up toward the Lord, there's going to be a 1 Corinthians 5:5, a shaking to awaken. That's probably the Great Lakes opening up down to the Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of America, excuse me. I saw America being completely changed, almost like a completely rewriting of the Constitution. Remember what You Be Ready saw? A new Constitution. It was some of the darkest days I've seen. Now, I covered this yesterday, but in a lot of what I've just covered, it's important to cover it again. So it says, Ultimatum, and the U.S. has 3 or 4 weeks to meet all of its demands, or Iran will severely escalate in the Strait of Hormuz and launch its planned preemptive strike on U.S.-backed Gulf infrastructure and U.S. and Israeli assets. I suspect in 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to start seeing drones hitting things like oil terminals, oil refineries. Anyway, demands are, Iran wants $300 billion in reconstruction funds. Basically, everything you broke, fix it. Full release of Iran's frozen assets up to $120 billion. Lifting of the U.S. naval blockade. In other words, pick up your toys and go home. in the war across all fronts, including Gaza and Lebanon. Now, Israel not going to put up with that. They're not going to go along with that. That's right there's a game stopper. That's not. Israel has said, we are not going to withdraw from Gaza until every weapon has been confiscated from Gaza. Accepting Iran's permanent control of the Strait of Hormuz, including up to a 7% transit fee. That's not going to happen either. Okay, so since we know it's not going to happen, what is it really saying? Iran is really saying, we really want to go to war with America. Do you think that Iran is capable of defeating America? Well, probably not, even with all of their drones, even with all of their terrorist attacks inside America. But are they capable of giving us a bloody nose? You bet. Are they capable of blacking an eye? Yep, they are. Could it be that they're going to do a lot of destruction to America? It could very well be. A lot of these prophecies about standing in line for food, gray stuff like snow everywhere from suitcase nukes going off. Remember, we've been reading a lot of that stuff. Maybe in the next 3 or 4 weeks it all starts. The lifting of all U.S. sanctions on Iranian oil, petrochemical products, and gas. At present, Iran has the initiative and momentum. U.S. interceptor inventories are depleted, while I don't believe they're depleted, but I do think that we've used a bunch of them, while high oil prices amplify Tehran's leverage. Now, let me go to a couple of them here as we have time. Jason Meeks. Stan and I and 20 other people were in the back of a grocery store. The group walked from the back to the main store to purchase some Tang, which should have cost about $1, but now the price is $6. We all saw that the price of goods on the shelf were at least 30 to 40% higher than last week. Well, we've seen that already with gasoline. We all bought the item and headed back, but instead of it being full of stock and merchandise, it was cleaned out. Cleaned stock. We've seen that. There were crackers, canned goods, non-perishable food items, all kinds of random items, all new. One man was selling the goods at super high prices, not trying to cheat people, just trying to feed his family. David Phillips. I had a dream that my family went into a vacation. Rampant inflation started. It was like we were living in the Old West. One person was selling Ritz crackers individually $1,000 per cracker. The main thing that people wanted was food. People had no money. They were bartering for food. People would steal anything they could get their hands on, even out in the open. They were willing to risk extreme danger for it. The single most important item was food supplies, especially non-refrigerated foods. Leslie Johnson, 2021. I saw a lot of people who represented the church. They were in an amusement park. Everything was fun, but then they started getting very, very hungry. All the restaurants and the food availability was gone. They were not able to get the food as this amusement park, so they were leaving in droves, but let me just jump in here. I feel like America is not listening to me. And I got to thinking about that today. And the reason that is, I look at our subscribers, and we have 98.4. Well, we had 98.4 thousand a year ago. In other words, I'm doing my part. You're not doing your part. I need you. No. You and Jesus need you to click like, share, and subscribe. And it may be that you have to go around that share thing because they have some kind of a glass ceiling. They're shadow banning Prophecy Club, so we can't get new people. Maybe what you need to do is click and copy the URL and email it to your email list where they can't stop it from going out. Because in a year, we haven't got any new subscribers. That's crazy. That's crazy. They are prohibiting us from getting new subscribers. So I'm asking you to help me. Look, guys, this is not a joke. I mean, we're trying to win souls here. We're trying to warn people. But I'm doing my part, but the platforms are stopping it from going out. Stopping it from reaching new people. Yeah, the old people can come and watch, but the new people, they don't hear about it. That's got to be your job. If you tell me another way to get it out more people, I'll do it. Okay, let's go back. So they're not able to get food at this amusement park, so they're leaving in droves. But when they left without their shoes. They were all barefoot and very hungry. They were all looking for food, begging for even one piece of bread to give them. They were searching for something. They were searching for the one, the only one that could feed them. This is not new. Folks, we've been hearing this. I'm doing my part. I need you to do your part. Click like, share, and subscribe. Like tells the algorithm to send it out, but that doesn't mean the algorithm is going to send it out. So I'm asking you to send it. We should have at least 100 new subscribers in a week. That's not difficult. We haven't had 100 new subscribers in a year. You tell me. Accident? No. The only way we could do it is for you to actually send it out. Okay, a couple more. One more. Lance Woods. I asked God for the same dream. What I was got was something different. I found myself walking through a world that was nothing except ash, suitcase nukes, ash and charred debris for as far as the eye could see. In the center of the devastation was an incredibly large, off-white square concrete building. It must have been covered several blocks, and it appeared to be hundreds of feet high and just as deep underground. A large lady, probably 250 pounds, was the leader of the building, stood at the door welcoming all Christians seeking help after a nuclear strike flattened everything. I don't know why this building survived. All I know is this place had all the food, water, medical care anyone could need. Only Christians were permitted to enter, and it was known throughout the land as Sanctuary. Here it is, 2020, Dan Coverstone. The vision started. The first vision I saw was long food lines. I saw people waiting for food. Seemed like hours standing in line and not in cars. Why not in cars? Because the suitcase nuke fried all of their computer chips in their cars and their house. Go to empshield.com, use the promo code Prophecy, get you a $50 discount off one of these. You put one on each of your cars, one on your house, and when the suitcase nukes go off, your car, the plan is, still starts. I saw ships and ports on both east and west coast sitting idle. Nothing moving at sea. I saw a headline that said, Baltic Dry Index is dead. Now, we've seen a time wherein very little was moving. I don't think that's fulfilled yet. In other words, if there's a big skirmish with Iran, could that cause that? Yeah, it could cause it. I saw what looked like shopping malls that had been converted into shelters and living quarters. Like after Hurricane Katrina, the people sheltered in the football stadiums. The businesses in those shopping malls were all shuttered. I saw people in cots, food outreach, people who are misplaced. This was not a homeless shelter. Something bad had happened. People were in shelters. Something bad. Suitcase nuke. I continued to see shuttered properties. I saw people in homes wearing coats, closed curtains. Constant vision, people inside their homes looking at what was going on. When I look at the people looking out their curtains, I see more of this dark, gray, snow-like stuff. It's called fallout. Fallout stuff. It wasn't white or pure snow like after a first fresh snowfall. And I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to encourage you, if God has blessed you and you can help Prophecy Club on an ongoing basis, then we'll be really, really in time. Watch prophecyclub.com. Go watch those videos.